All right, hello, fifth grade. Today we are going to work on creating a food web, food chain pyramid triangle to kind of illustrate the different levels of where the base of our energy and matter come from and how it goes through different organisms. So in our reading, matter makes it all up. We know that matter is energy and comes from organisms. And for example, all organisms have matter. And what we're going to be talking about is how the energy from our primary producers and the energy from the sun is absorbed through the different chains of organisms eating one thing to the next. Now, on page 16, 17, and actually, no, it's 14, 15. This PDF has different page numbers. And then again on 16 and 17 is this illustration of a somewhat complex food chain web. We start with our organisms that are absorbing the sunlight energy, the organisms that eat the plants, and then those plant eaters who are then eaten, who then get eaten by other consumers, and then we have our top of the food chain, our main predator. So, or carnivore. So we're talking about how all this energy from the sun is transferred between each organism. So in your binder, you have a white piece of paper, and there's two pieces of white paper. One is a regular construction piece paper. The other one is much larger and is folded in thirds. So we're going to hold it off on that paper, and we want just the single sheet of paper that's not folded. And what we are going to do is we are going to first put our name on the back of the paper and then flip it over, and you are going to draw a triangle. Now, I highly suggest you use a ruler to kind of get, you get your points correct. I kind of messed up on this one. I already had done one and then realized that the camera was not recording. Yay me. So I am on my second version of this. So what works? Use a ruler. If you do not have a ruler at home, use the flat edge of a piece of paper. And what you're going to do is you're going to make your base of your triangle, figure out where the middle is. This page is about 8.5, so around 4.25 should be the middle of your pyramid triangle. Mine is just slightly off. And then you're going to make your points to go up. You're then going to take your triangle, bring your sides of your triangle up. Then you're going to split it up into 5 sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, we are going to start at the very below the base of our pyramid, which is where all energy from planet Earth comes from, which is the sun. Mr. Sun, sun, Mr. Golden Sun, please shine down on me. Please don't give me skin cancer with your rays and overheat our planet because of climate change. Anyways, my little funny songs. All right, so this is sun energy or light energy that comes onto our planet. Now, organisms that absorb that energy from the sun are our primary producers. And our primary producers happen to be plants. They photosynthesize and make our oxygen. They also provide food, glucose, and energy to our next organisms. Now, I'm going to do my best. You could draw whatever plant you want. I'm going to do my best to kind of follow the example from the book. So I'm going to draw or attempt to draw this plant that lives in the Everglades, the bladderwort plant. Wort plant. Sure, that's kind of what it looks like. And it has these little yellow flowers. So pretty, it has little buds and sprouting. All right, so there's my plant. All right, that's my primary producer. Next, we have our secondary consumers. So our secondary consumers are our herbivores. And our herbivores eat plants. Now, in this example, our herbivore would be our grass carp, our marsh rabbit. If I were to use the example on the previous page, we would just go straight from the grass carp. So we have this fish, we have the deer, cows are herbivores. So these primary consumers are herbivores. Now, using my fabulous drawing attempted skills, I'm going to attempt to draw a fish and a bunny. Wish me luck. All right, so we have our secondary consumers. And our secondary consumers is Mrs. Ermini's attempted drawing of a little foo-foo rabbit hopping through the forest. I'm going to fix some of this as I'm drawing it. And our fish let's see, this is like rainbow fish. I'm calling my fish purple, pink. All right, so I just erased my pencil marks. So there's our herbivores, our rabbit, bunny, marsh rabbit, and our grass carp. Next, we have our omnivores, those that eat the plants and insects. And they are Mugglies, I messed up. All right, so yours truly looked at the wrong row. Our primary consumers are our herbivores, so hopefully you could go back and erase that. Then we go to our secondary consumers. So our secondary consumers are our omnivores. My apologies for that. I got so excited drawing, I wasn't paying attention to my pyramid. So we have our omnivores, which are going to be our secondary consumers. And in this case, our secondary consumers, depending on which version of our food chain we're looking at. So in the Everglades swamp food chain, our secondary consumer would be our great heron, great blue heron, our birds because they're eating the fish. In this other example of this food web, we have the frog technically would be a secondary consumer because it had already eaten the insect, and the insect was our herbivore. We also have, I would definitely say the heron makes the most sense in this one. So I'm going to put birds in this one. Frogs would also go in the secondary consumers. So my friends who are great at drawing frogs and birds, that will go in our secondary consumers. All right, so there's Mr. Meany's version of a crane in it. I'm gonna make myself laugh. All right, so we have our crane. I'm gonna say it's a great blue heron. I guess I should make it blue. So I saw this video of how to make a crane, and they start with the number 2. I don't know if you guys can see that's the number 2. You do like an inverted outline of the 2. You make a belly, put a little tail feather on it, a little half of a heart. And then we have our beak, eyeballs, and however bird feet are supposed to look. And our frog. Really, if you don't know how to draw, do your best. I truly did not know how to. I just spent the past 10 minutes looking at a video and step-by-step drawings of how to draw a frog. So do not worry. Do your best. And then we could color 5 little speckled frogs sitting on a speckled log. All right. And I'm sure they have big eyeballs too. All right. So we have our animals. I'm just going to delete my pencil so that it comes out a little bit more. All right. So more or less, we have our crane, our omnivores, our secondary consumers. Next, we have our tertiary. Ooh, that's a fun word. Tertiary. Tertiary consumers. And these are carnivores. And in this case, the tertiary consumers could be a snake. I wouldn't go necessarily raccoon. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me zoom out here. So if we use this example with the raccoon, we can say that this is the algae, this is the larvae, this is the omnivore. So I guess the raccoon would be your carnivore, but a raccoon also eats berries and nuts and things like that. So I wouldn't say of solely calling this a carnivore. Definitely if there was a snake would fit in here. Most of the other examples don't have that many spaces. So I'm going to put a snake here because that's the example that I'm referring to. And I'm actually going to Google a picture of a snake. The raccoon would probably go under the omnivore. Because technically raccoons will eat absolutely anything. All right, so our tertiary consumers would be an example of a snake. There are snakes in the Everglades. There may not be one so specific in this example, but I did look it up. There are snakes in the Everglades. I'm going to use the colors of this eastern coral snake so I could get some orange in there. I think that'll be fun because it's all about coloring on top of learning. So we're going to color in our snake. All right, so we have our carnivore. And last but not least, at the tippity top, our carnivore is our quaternary consumers, which are your hawks, your eagles, in this case, the alligator. And to fit this in here, I'm going to write this on the very top since it doesn't really all fit. Quaternary. And technically, if you want, you can also put the raccoon in here because the raccoon is an omnivore. And our alligator is going to go here. Technically, also like hawks or eagles. Typically, turkey vultures probably would be in there too. But for example, if I was to use this example of the food chain, the alligator would go in there. So if you want to draw your alligator, so there's our example with our alligator. Maybe your alligator won't look so much with like T-Rex arms. All right, and then just to make our pyramid, let's see if I can fix that a little bit better. A little more definition. I'm going to go through and just redo my triangle before we go up to the rest. Now, one thing, there's still energy to be seen that's missing here. And the energy that is missing from here is when these organisms die off and end up back in the ground, they are consumed by decomposers. So our decomposers, did I use brown yet? No. Our decomposers are also part of this food chain web. We're not really going to draw them. If you want, I guess you could draw some little microscopic items. And what happens is as these organisms in our food chain die in the ground, their waste or dead matter releases heat. And as the decomposers heat them up, so we have heat being released from our dead organisms. And throughout our food chain, those of you who remember doing their energy reports earlier this school year, some of you may have researched biomass. I'm actually going to turn my paper around because I can write better that way. So we have biomass. Which is our stored energy. And that stored energy travels up the food chain, right? Each organism has stored energy in it, and it's given to the consumer that eats it, or that biomass stored energy is released when it is being decomposed. So we have, I can't make a beautiful picture without a title. So at the top, we're going to put food chains. It'd be nice if yours was actually centered. All right, so here's our food chain. I'm going to see if I could, just give me 1 second. I'm going to move the camera to see if I can get a full view of this. For those of you who like to just go to the end of the video and then copy it. So you're kind of, the paper's pretty big. So we have our light energy at the base, followed by our primary producers, our primary consumers. Remember to fix this. I kind of messed up the first time. Secondary consumers, our tertiary consumers, and our quaternary consumers. And also birds of prey would also go up in here. And if you want, the raccoon from our example can go in here. All right, my friends, I hope you enjoyed that and you learned a little something. And don't forget, you can trace this out if you want. All right, have a great day.